So section B is a bit unpredictable, as I've said. There are a number of question types that can appear. You might have to write an email, and these are just some of the possibilities. You might have to write a letter. You might have to write a notice. You might have to write an article. Someone mentioned memo. And you might have to write a report. Yeah, these are just 6 off the top of my head, but there are even more possibilities. And so the difficulty with section B is not the amount of writing you have to do. In fact, section B requires the not the least amount of writing, because the summary requires the least. But besides the summary, section B requires the least number of words in general. And so you're getting all of 30 minutes here. And the reason you're getting this much time is you have to pay close attention to the format of what you're doing. And so you're going to spend a lot of time getting the format right, ensuring that your paragraphs look good. If something should be centered or underlined, remember the different parts of the letter, email, stuff like that. So that's what you're going to be spending a time doing, getting the format right. And you will have a number of details that you will need to include in your answer. And so you have to continually check your answer, check the question, check your answer, check the question, ensure that nothing is omitted. Yeah, so you get all of 30 minutes. It's a lot of time, but you're gonna be spending a lot of this time dealing with the format and ensuring that you have you have all of the details. The first thing I would do in the exam, and this is a very simple technique here, is you look at the question, you identify what type of writing you need to produce, what the format is. Is it an email? Is it a letter? Is it an article? And when you identify that, you go down here, and before you start marking up the paper, before you start doing anything, you're going to write out the format right here. Why are you doing this? Because under exam pressure, you need all the help you can get, and you need to help yourself by writing things down so you don't forget anything. What kind of format are we looking at here? Yeah, it's a notice, right? And the question type, the answer type that they're looking for is usually explicitly stated. It's very clear. So all you have to do is read, and you will see that you have to write a notice. Write a notice that will be placed on the school's notice board. You can't put an email on a notice board, right? It's a notice. So what you'll do, use this big box. And if you want to do like different layers of planning, then you won't need to use all the space. But I will use all of the space for this. And I will just write out the notice format or the notice outline. And then, just as I did with summary, I'm going to put some little check boxes. And for each section of the notice that I complete, I check that box. And so what I'll do is, at the end of writing the notice, I'll check my planning section here and make sure that all the boxes are checked. So for the notice, we need to have a couple of different parts, right? The first thing we need, name of the issuing body. Issuing body. So I am basically writing the notice in the planning box without the information. I'm just writing the different parts of it. So that way I'll be able to reference this and write the notice flawlessly. So we need the name of the issuing body. Then below that, we're going to need the word notice in all caps, right? Below this, to the left, we have the date of issue. And I'm going to be putting these boxes here. So it means each section I complete, I check that off. Date of issue, when is this notice being issued? And then I'll have the subject, in the middle, what is the notice about, subject, and this whatever the subject is, and this is going to be underlined. Yeah, subject, that's going to be underlined. Beneath the subject, we have the actual body of the notice, and the notices, uh, basically almost every type of writing is going to have a body section where you have paragraph format, right? And because it's not a letter, we're just going to use the regular paragraph style where we indent. So usually have an opening paragraph, maybe some details in the middle, and a closing paragraph. But for a notice, maybe one or two paragraphs might actually be enough. Notices are very short. If you go to a notice board, you won't see a long, 5 paragraph essay on the notice board. It should be clear. It should have all the necessary details. It should be to the point. So what this means is, remember, guys, we're working for 30 marks. So if we're only going to be using a few words, how is CSEC going to award us so many marks? It means it has to be perfect. The format has to be perfect. So I have the name of issuing body, the word notice. To the left here, we have date of issue. Then center, we have subject underlined. Under that, we have the body. And then we have the closing sections here. We're going to need our signature, our name. And if we hold a position, we're going to write what that is. So this is how I plan my section B. I use the space and I write out the format. Before even looking at the details of the question, I write the format down. That way, all I need to do is go up here, annotate the passage, mark it up, find all of the relevant information, and plug them in here. If I do that, I can't go wrong. It's simple. Section B can be easy, guys. It can be easy. So for the notice, we have these parts, right? How many parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's generally it for the notice. Name of issuing body. No, yes, of course, we're going to be skipping line. So we need the notice to be properly formatted. So we skip a line after each thing. Name of issuing body. And if you want to remind yourself that you should skip a line, you can, I don't know, do something like that, or do some lines or something. I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna be skipping lines. You can't have the whole thing jumbled up. Kimberly, why are you already dead? Come on, it's early morning. Look alive, look alive. All right, so what we're gonna do now that we have the format dialed in, of course, if we're doing an email, we're not gonna be writing the notice format, right? Obviously, we're gonna be writing the email format. If we're doing a letter, we're gonna be writing the letter format. The point is, whatever type of answer you need to give CSEC, write that format down in the planning section, put these boxes. That way, as you fill in the information, you will check all of these boxes and ensure that everything is in place. Yeah. And wherever you have a body for anything, it's going to be, the body itself is going to be in continuous prose. It's going to be in paragraph form. All right. So after we're going to do this in maybe 5 minutes, I suppose. How much marks is allocated for format? Well, a lot. If you write a letter in notice style, you're not going to get many marks, right? So you have to get the format right, and you have to get all the details right. And of course, it's English, so grammar and spelling and stuff like that has to be on point as well. All right, so now it's time to mark up the paper. We like marking up papers, right? We're gonna circle or underline or square or highlight or whatever method you want to use to highlight. You need to somehow pick out all of the details that need to make it into your notice, right? So we're looking at this. You are the outgoing president for your school's student council, okay? This is necessary. The word president is necessary. Why? Because, let me get this a little bit. Let me zoom this up. All right, looking good. So we're the president. We have to keep this in mind. Why is this important? It's important because, let me use the highlighter. In the exam, you might use squares, but for the stream, I think it's a little bit clearer. Uh, President is important because this is my position, and I'm going to need to put this uh, somewhere down here, position. So that's necessary. So we're highlighting everything that is relevant to our notice. All right, so you're the outgoing president of your school student council. So we're a student council president. We can write that as our position, student council president. All right, fine. Elections for a new executive. Elections for a new executive is scheduled for Friday, the 25th of June 2020. So we have more important details here. This notice will be about the elections for a new executive, right? And if you want to, I'm using various colors because I have a pen that have infinite colors in it, a lot of ink. You guys can use underline, circle, square. I can switch up how you annotate so it's easier to see the points separately, right? If you underline everything, then maybe all the points will kind of morph into one. So use different ways to separate the points so it's easier to figure out if everything is there. I wouldn't use a red pen, Dork. I would just use for example, underline some things, circle some things. If you're getting confused with everything being underlined, then find different ways to highlight. All right, so elections for a new executive. That is what this whole notice is going to be about. Of course, we need the date and we need the time. Right, that's also important. We need the place, school's auditorium. All of these things must make it into the notice, right? The following positions are available. Obviously, we can't leave out the positions, right? We need to tell them what positions are available. This is in point form here. However, we're going to be writing our notice, the body of the notice, in paragraph form, in continuous prose, right? And that's because CSEC tells us here, your notice must be in continuous prose. So we're going to convert the bullet format to paragraph format. That's pretty easy. All right, let's see if we have any other main points. Students need to be informed that the president, so the president of the student council must be a fifth form student. All right, so we can't leave that out. The president must be a fifth form student. So I guess all of these other positions, they can be in any form, but for the president, has to be a senior. All right, what else do we have here? Further, students must vote for a candidate for every position. Okay, we're going to need to include that students must vote for a candidate in every position. Yeah, Dork, this is basically what we're doing. We're given a lot of data, some raw information, and we're just going to put this in paragraph form. But it's not just in continuous prose; it's also in a notice format. Yeah, also in a notice format. All right, write a notice that will be placed on the student's notice board. Now let's double check what CSEC is looking for. Let's double check what they're looking for. They're gonna assess you based on how well you format the notice. That's why I'm saying if you don't get all of these sections dialed in, you're gonna be in trouble. It's a notice, not an email, not a letter. All right, fine. What else do they need to see? They want to ensure that the information that you select is relevant and complete. So what would be incomplete information? Incomplete information could be you mention all the positions, but you leave out the part that the president must be a fifth form student. That's incomplete. So ensure that you don't say, okay, the event will be Friday, the 25th of June, but you leave out the year. Ensure that all the details are there. All right, that's what we call complete information. Relevant just means you're not including things that you don't need to include. But for a notice, basically everything here will be included. There's nothing irrelevant right here. All right, you're going to be graded on how well you organize the information. What it means is you may have to reorder some things. You may not necessarily present the information in the same order it's given here. So they're giving you this information. It might be jumbled up, it might be messed up, it might not be very clear. You're going to make it clear, make it smooth, make it flow, right? And express, you're graded on how well you express the information. What is the expression? This is the sentencing, sentence types, sentence structure. Are you using complete sentences or are you using fragments? Right? Is your grammar okay? Are your subjects agreeing with a verb? Is the vocabulary at CSEC level or is it at a grade 4 level? Right? So that's the expression aspect of it, which also ties into the final point where they talk about grammar, sentence structure, and all of those basic school stuff. Yeah. So that's what CSEC is looking for. Make sure to include all the relevant details in the notice so that students will be fully informed of the elections. So they are reinforcing the point. Don't leave out anything. Don't leave out anything important. All right. So in the exam, maybe 15 minutes have passed. You have your format written down here, and you also have the question annotated in that you're using, whether you're using, underlined, square, whatever, you have highlighted the points that need to make it into the summary. Now we're going to start plugging in the information. All right, work with me now, guys. This is a very short question, so we can use up the chat. Name of issuing body. What is the name of the issuing body? Let's work the paper together. Let me know in the chat. Student council. But which student council is it? Which student council? Everybody's saying student council, but that is vague. That is incomplete information. You can't just say student council. The student council must have some kind of owner. What student council is it specifically? You are thinking. So, CSEC will do this tricky little thing where they will give you some information explicitly, but they will also allow you to fill in the blanks with made up information where necessary. You don't have to write your school, Jody, but you just need to write a school name, right? So you write something. So I can say, oh no, do not use red ink in CSEC. You might lose some marks, right? Let's say Wickham High School Student Council. I don't have enough space here. This should be centered. I'm going to say Wickham High School Student Council. Yeah. So you have the name of a school. You might have to make that up. No problem. Someone says ICHS. Yeah, whatever you write, it doesn't matter. Just ensure that you write something. Okay. What is the next step? The next step is the word notice. Doesn't have to be underlined, but it should stand out on the page. So I put it in all caps. All right. After notice, we have the date. If we check back on our, remember, we have this as a guide, right? And as we enter information, we can check. What is the date? Let me know in the chat what the date is. This is super, super, super easy. Somebody says Friday, June 25th. My goodness, I can't believe it. So many people talking about June 25th. Oh my gosh. You cannot be the student council president if you are saying June 25th. What are you talking about? What is the date, guys? The day writing the exam? Not at all. That date might be wrong. Someone says Wednesday, the 3rd of May. Oh boy. Dork has it. Dorkfield has it. Remember, this is the issuing date, right? This is the issuing date we're trying to come up with. So if the if the election is scheduled on the 25th of June, how are they going to put out the notice on that day? Nobody's going to make it to the elections. So you need to give them some time. So this is where it's not just about plugging in content from the question. It's also about putting yourself in the situation, figuring out the context and thinking critically about how the information would make sense in a real world setting. All right. So let's agree on a date. What date do we want to use? It has to be before June 25th. How much notice do you need? Like a month? I think giving them a month might be good. So let's work with May 25th. What's the year? 2020 actually, not 2023. This would be in the future. All right, 2020. So if the elections are happening Friday, June 25th, it means yes, Kimberly, we need common sense, of course. Yeah. So if the elections are scheduled for the 25th, it means our notice must be written a little bit before that, maybe a month before that or so. So I chose May 25th, 2020, which is exactly 1 month before. All right, what do we do next? We have our date of issue. Then we have subject. What is the subject? Let me know in the chat what the subject of this notice is. The subject should be short and spicy. Tay is giving me a whole paragraph for the subject. My goodness. Nobody is going to want to read that notice. The subject took up all the space on the notice board, man. Let us make the subject like a headline, right? Like a newspaper headline. The subject doesn't have to be grammatical. You just need something that sounds like it's going to grab people's attention and let them know what it's about. Election for new executives. Okay, that doesn't sound bad. Student council elections. Too long. The subject has to be to the point. School president needed. Only president? Are you disrespecting the vice president, treasurer, secretary, PRO? Not just president, man. We need lots of people. Executives in need. That's a little vague and it sounds ominous. That sounds scary. Like what kind of like business executives? What's going on? So we're gonna write subject, colon, and student council elections. I'll work with this. You can underline the subject itself, or I've seen some teachers underline the whole thing, but I'll underline just the subject itself. All right. Student council elections. Panda says upcoming would be a good word. All right. I can include upcoming. Upcoming student council elections. All right, that's fine. Upcoming student council elections. So my subject is there. If you read the subject, you know what the notice is going to be about. And I can check off this box. Subject complete. Now for the body. This is where we have to put our writing skills to good use. We're going to need to organize the information properly while including everything. I'll give you 1 minute to come up with an opening for the notice. We don't need a hook like we're writing an essay, but we still need a start that makes sense, a start that gets the ball rolling. How do we start? It could be exciting, but the point is to relay information. It's not to entertain. Remember that. Ate says on Friday, June 25th, 2020, the student council body will be having an election for the upcoming student council body for the following school year. Okay. All right, I'm seeing some good suggestions. This is all, and I've done all of these questions already, so I'm basically giving you what I already know I'm going to write. So how I would open this is because you want it to sound, you want it to give information, You don't want to sound too gimmicky, or you don't want it to be an entertainment piece, but the notice should also sound like it's coming from a human. It should also flow naturally, right? So this is how I'd open up. And remember, we're doing paragraph form, continuous prose, so we indent. Yeah. Yeah. As the school year comes to the end, to an end, the Wickham High School, the Wickham High School Student Council invites you. We're inviting the students to the election, right? Invites you to participate in the upcoming elections, and I'm gonna tell them what's gonna happen in the elections. Participate in upcoming elections, wherein, I like the word wherein, we will select. We could also use the word elect the new executive body. So this first sentence here, it's a bit of a long sentence, but it's fine. This first sentence is kind of a summary of what the entire point of the notice is. As the school year comes to an end, natural way to introduce what's going on. We're approaching the end of the school year. The Wickham High School Student Council, we have to include, who is speaking here very early on. So it's a clear, so the message sounds clear. We know who it's coming from. The Wickham High School Student Council invites you to participate in the upcoming elections, wherein we will select the new executive body. And remember, as we are writing, we are constantly double checking to ensure that we are following the format, and we're also including what we need to include. So I am not going back and forth too much because it might confuse you who are, viewing my screen on your screen. But in the exam, you will be double checking your annotation, your marked up paper, your marked up question, and the format as you write. That way you don't have much crossing out and much erasing to do. All right, so that's my opening sentence. Now I'm going to tell them where and when the elections will be. So the elections are, and we want to use professional words. We want to use, kind of more high-end vocabulary. We don't have to use like super big words, but it shouldn't sound like a toddler wrote it. So one way of saying this could be the elections will be at such and such time, but maybe a better way to say it would be the elections are scheduled for such and such a time, and this time is Friday, June 25th, and we put the time Friday, June 25th at 10 a.m. at the school auditorium. Yeah, at the school auditorium. So we have now made it clear when the elections will be and where the elections will be. So now we need to get into the details of the positions available and stuff like that. So one more time, let me just double check here. And one thing that you can do, you don't have to do this, but if it helps you out, whenever you include information in with a notice, email, or whatever, you can maybe check it off, check it off so you know that, okay, I included that, I included that, I included that. And so at a glance, while writing, you can know what information you have and what information you need. What information you need to have. All right, so Friday, June 25th at 10 a.m. at the at maybe we can say in, well, our schedule. So let's say at the school auditorium. There are 5 positions. There are 5 positions available. Namely, and that is a semicolon, kind of a fancy punctuation. I know what, I'll use a colon. So there are 5 positions available. Namely, and the reason I use a colon here, not just a comma, it's just for clarity, because I have a comma here and I'm going to have lots of commas here as I list the positions. So having this here instead of another comma makes it a bit easier to read, easier to understand where the list starts and ends. And now we're going to include all of those positions. President, notice I'm using capital letters for these because they're the name of positions and we were given them in capital letters, starting with capital letters in the question. President, vice president, what else? Treasurer, secretary, PRO. Yeah. All right. So we have I've talked about all of these. Of course, we need to include the fact that the president has to be a 5th form student. So the notice is pretty easy, guys. It's all about including all the relevant information and using the right format. Here we can, we could jump to a new paragraph here, but is that necessary? Maybe not. This can now be one paragraph. You know what? New paragraph. All students must, and we can underline forceful words, keywords like must vote for, we know it's going to be one candidate for each available position, right? So each candidate must vote for, it's a notice, so we are allowed to use a little bit of fancy formatting like all caps. One candidate for each available position. Yeah. And we have this in a paragraph by itself, so it stands out. This is just it's a matter of choice here, doing it that way. Be reminded, I'm looking at the last thing now. So I've included this. Now I need to include this. Be reminded that your selection for student council president must be a fifth form student. All right, must be a fifth form student. And then someone is asking about the line skipping. Well, it's not an essay, it's a notice, which means you do have a little bit of flexibility with how you format it. All right. So when you're writing a notice, you need the information to be clear, to be very visible, even from a distance. Someone can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And so I think jumbling this up by not skipping a line might hurt the visuals of the notice. So I chose to skip a line. If you indent and not skip a line, it's okay. I don't think CSEC would penalize you for that. But this is just my way of making the notice a little bit easier to digest. Okay, I think I've included all of the information here. Yeah, I haven't yet mentioned that I'm the president. This is going to be in the position section. I mentioned the elections for new student council executive. I mentioned the when and the where. I mentioned all the positions. I mentioned the fact that the president should be a fifth form student. I mentioned the fact that they should vote for a candidate, so one candidate for each position. And now I just need to, so the body is done. Just need to add my signature, name and position. Signature, name, position. What signature should I use? I won't use my real signature, right? This should be at the corner here. I'll name myself John Wick. Yeah. Student council president. And you could even, if you want to be kind of fancy, you could say outgoing student council president. But student council president is just fine also. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so about the colon, it's introducing the list. You don't always need to use a colon, but when you have too many commas and you want to make a list clearly defined, a colon is a good way to do that. All right, so I've included signature, name, and position. Someone's asking about crossing off. You mean like marking something up? If I cross out something with my pen. I mean, what you want to do is you want to make your cross out neat, and that's unavoidable. If you make a mistake and you're using a pen, you can't erase it, so you cross it out. So if I wanted to change school, sorry, I shouldn't use red. I make a neat cross out, and I can write the correction on top, or I can just make the correction, on the right, continuing as per normal. So if you make mistakes, make the mistakes as clean as possible, And it's better to cross something out and it gets a little messy than to leave the mistake in and be marked down for the mistake. You don't want that. I have the name of the issuing body here. I have the word notice here. I have the date of issue here. I have the subject here. I have the body in paragraphs written nicely, and signature, name, position, signature, name, position. And of course, you double check everything you review, checking spelling, checking vocabulary, ensuring that your vocabulary is up to standard. Yeah. All right. So what do you guys think of this notice? Do you think we need to add anything or change anything? Panda, anything you would change? All right. I got the Panda approval. Can the notice be this short? Your notice should be as long as it needs to be and no longer. CSEC is not looking for, remember, guys, there are 4 sections. Sections A and B might be short, but sections C and D are pretty lengthy. So they are not expecting long writing for every section. So nothing is wrong if your notice is short. Something is wrong if your notice is incomplete. But if it's short, no problem. You just need to have all the relevant information. It needs to be well organized, and the format needs to be a notice format. Yeah. Yeah. So imagine stopping by a notice board. Would you understand all of this, or would you walk away being confused? Yeah. If you would understand all of this and it's well organized, concise and to the point, as Jonathan says, then you have a notice and you move on to writing a story. If you want to write long-winded stuff, save that for your story. Yeah, that's not for a notice.